Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest The Weekend Organist webinar. I'm JW Arnold, and by day, I am the marketing and communications specialist for the AGO. But on the weekends, like many of you, I'm the music director at Christ Lutheran Church in not so sunny Fort Lauderdale. Boy, we're getting dumped on right now. So hope things are drier where you are today. But I'm so glad you joined us. And I'm also really pleased to have Elizabeth George with us. Elizabeth, as you may know, is the Chief Membership Officer of the AGO and the person who's really the liaison to our chapters and our members across the country and around the world. And she's helping today and going to be monitoring the chat. And we really encourage you as we go through this hour tonight or 45 minutes or whatever it is, please feel free to jump in with your comments. This is really intended to be an open forum. We're not able to do it as a regular meeting, but the chat is there. It's a great place to share your thoughts. Tell us if you agree with what we found in our survey and or if things seem a little different to you. So with further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to say one more time, thank you for being here with us. And my screen is not advancing. Okay, so okay, I'm going to pop back out of this. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Let's try this one again. It doesn't matter how many times you rehearse it, there's always some sort of glitch, isn't there? Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, I think we got it to work. So here we go. Before we get started, I just want to go over again what makes us weekend organists. I mean, generally, we're part-time church musicians. Maybe that's 5 hours for you, or 20, or even maybe a few more than 20. Generally, we're paid either hourly or salaried. But then there are also many of us that are volunteers too, that donate our time to our church. But that doesn't make you any less of a professional. Let me just tell you that right off the bat. Many of us are self-taught, but many of us are also professionally trained. And generally during the week, we pay the bills with another primary occupation. And I have to tell you that in the months I've been with AGO in this position, and since we started the Weekend Organist, I've met so many people from fascinating backgrounds, educators, college professors, chemists, computer programmers, systems analysts, just all over the board. And so I hope that maybe if you do something different during the week as your profession, please share it with us. We'd love to hear what you do during that week. And the one thing that we all kind of share, I've found, is that more often than not, we're really forced to do much more with less. And that means less practice time. You know, maybe our churches have smaller instruments. Many of us play on digital instruments. Uh, Many times our churches, if they can't afford a full-time musician, chances are they can't afford much of a music budget either. So we've got to stretch what dollars we can get and make it go as best we can through the course of the year. And volunteers. I'll tell you, in my church since COVID, we've had about 30 people on average on a Sunday morning, down from 60 to 75. And my choir on a good Sunday is 3 to 4. So that's definitely a challenge for me in my position. And I've heard from many of you that that's not unusual for you as well. But here's the thing, no matter how small your church is or how big, no matter what kind of a organ you have, what kind of a budget, you are conducting a very meaningful music ministry. And you're playing such an important role in the life of your congregation and their spiritual fulfillment. And that's nothing to be taken lightly. I don't care if you're the music director at St. Patrick's Cathedral or you're the music director at Christ Lutheran Church. I mean, we all play a really important part in shepherding these congregations. And again, let's see if I can make it. There we go. One of the statistics that many people don't realize is that between 50 and 60% of AGO members are part-time weekend organists like us. And I'm even going to wager that the number is much higher since the pandemic, as church attendance has dropped and as churches have forced to kind of take a look at their budgets and their resources. So we'll see, because I think that the AGO is probably planning a comprehensive member survey in the next several months, as the National Council starts to begin a new cycle of strategic planning. So we'll find out, but you should know that you're in the majority. We are in the majority of the membership of the AGO. And I just want to share this quote. If you've been to one of my webinars, you've heard this before. Albert Schweitzer, I mean, such a genius. I mean, we know him for so many things. Not the least of those is his complete edition of the works of J.S. Bach, and as a organ and music scholar, and also as a medical scholar and an explorer. And he said, if you're called upon to play a church service, it's a greater honor than if you were to play a concert on the finest organ in the world. Thank God each time when you're privileged to sit before the organ console and assist in the worship of the Almighty. So those are pretty big words, but I think very uplifting. And so I hope that you'll take those to heart as much as I do on a daily basis. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we want to encourage conversation. So before we get into the survey, my last column that came out last month about practicing and finding time to practice and finding more ways to practice effectively, it inspired Kathy Hartman in Vermont to send me a message. And she's just retired, and she said, I have more time to practice now, and I'm not sure where I might like to go with the pieces that I'm working on. She wants to challenge herself technically. And so I asked if I could share that with the group. And this is a great time to throw out some of your favorite composers, or maybe some works. I asked her if she was more interested in building repertoire or expanding her technique, and she said expanding her technique. So, it's still, a wide range of answers we might come up with, but I hope that all of you, if something comes to your mind, you'll take a moment. And Elizabeth will be taking a look at the chat, and we'll have a point later on in the meeting where we can hear some of those suggestions and see what we think. I hope Kathy's in the audience today. I invited her. And this just raises the important piece about what an important community we are together. Again, we're 55, 60, maybe even a little bit more of the membership of the AGO, and we're here, we're heard, and the AGO is listening. And so the best way that we can help to support each other is to engage and uplift each other. So we'll be looking to hear what you have to say. So here we go. Here's the main event. This is what you're all waiting to hear. And again, chime in as thoughts come to your mind as we go through. But we did a survey, and we were curious sort of what the state of things were for part-time church musicians. We conducted the survey from January through July, and we had about 123 responses to the survey. Now, I'm sure we probably have a math professor or a statistician or someone like that out there. And if you are, please let us know. But 123 responses isn't necessarily a scientific sample. It's not anything near as exact as, say, many of the political polls that we're hearing about every day, where they have margins of error and it's within 3 and 4 points. But what it can tell us is from an anecdotal standpoint, some of the trends that may be out there, and the sentiment and the feelings and what's happening in our world. And I hope that maybe in another year or so we can do this again and get that statistical sample. So let's see what we found out, and let's see if you agree or not. So the first question that we asked, how many years have you served as a church musician, as either a volunteer or professional? 120 answered this. And look at this. This is, in many ways, this doesn't surprise me. Nearly 45% of those who participated in the survey have been doing this for more than 40 years. Does that surprise you? And then when you look at those other ranges, maybe 16 to 20 years is another larger group. 31 to 35. But it tells me that probably across our community in the AGO of part-time musicians, that most of us have several decades of experience doing what we do. And I know Elizabeth's watching; she'll jump in and confirm it as some of those responses come in. Have we had some folks chime in? Are they surprised?
Uh, People have put notes in the chat about repertoire.
Okay.
So do you want to go through your analysis and
Yeah,
then?
why don't we come back to the
Okay,
repertoire in
we'll
just a
do
little
that then.
bit? Okay,
Okay.
great. So we're watching. So if you see anything that jumps out, feel free to share your reactions. And then next we wanted to know, okay, what is that musical background of the part-time musicians? And this is another one that was sort of interesting. If you look at this, just over 30% describe their musical training as in a private or studio kind of a setting. So, being as it's not a degree, I would read into this that many have studied privately with a teacher, maybe at some point. Very few people are self-taught, which we see. And then we have a wide range of part-time musicians who either have an undergraduate degree in music or perhaps university study while pursuing a major outside of music, and a good group that have graduate degrees as well. And how many years have you been in your current position? And this one to me was one that surprised me a lot, because if you look at that, almost a third have been in their current position for less than 5 years. So that's the largest group among those who took the survey, and then followed by 6 to 10, and then the third largest group was more than 25 years. And so that's again gives us an idea that we seem to have a mix. We have a lot of part-time church musicians that are very happy and in long-term positions, but then we have a lot that have been less than 10 years in their current church positions as well. And one thing I'd love to do when we do this survey again is dig into that a little bit more and find out what factors lead to satisfaction. And we'll be able to do that in the next survey. If you're near your chat box, jump in there and tell us why you're satisfied with your position right now or not. What are those factors that are most important to you? Is it good pay? Is it benefits? Are we seeing anybody chiming in yet?
Well, what's interesting is they wanted to know how many members we are, and someone assumed we had 14,000. God bless you. I wish we did, but we are around 11,000. So there you go. And someone said, well, out of 14,000 members, only 123 responded. But I think, it depended. You had a list of who you sent these to, did you not, JW?
Well, we advertised this in the column in the
Okay.
magazine. We've advertised it in the webinars. Probably 120 is not an unusually small amount, really, when you get down to it, because when you look at a lot of surveys, some of the political surveys that you see right now are samples of 700 to 750 responses. That's really sort of considered statistical. So I don't think that that's too unusual, but we're also here raising awareness. So we know next time we'll have more participation. But if we have 11,000 and we know that roughly 55 to 60% of our members are part-time musicians, that's probably around 6,000 members in the AGO. And then when you consider those musicians that aren't members of the AGO, then there are quite a few more who may not be. Then we took a look at what denomination or faith community our respondents participated in, and this was probably a fairly representative sample. Obviously for generations, the Episcopal, the Anglican Church have elevated the organ and the choir to a very important, crucial part of worship. Same thing with the Lutheran Church and to a degree the Catholic Church. We also see a lot of the mainline Protestant denominations represented, Methodist, Presbyterian, Congregational, UCC. And I was really glad to see some substitutes to share. We actually going to have a program later, or I guess probably about January, that's going to talk a little bit about the finances of being a gig or a substitute musician. So be sure and watch for more information about that, because there's some interesting advantages to being a substitute. So we'll get to that. So there we go. I don't think we really missed anyone, but um, it is good to see that virtually all of the different areas were represented. You had a small group from the LDS or Community of Christ, and we know that there are a lot of organists that provide music every week at their local stakes, and so we're hoping to engage them and welcome them to our group as well. And I know when I was in college, the Christian Science Church was the coveted church position, because they really like great music, and there's long classical music oriented preludes and meditations during the service. So this gives us an idea of sort of where we're distributed, at least to a degree. Then we asked, what duties does your position include? So a lot of us wear many different hats, and clearly this is one where you could check more than one. So nearly 100% of the folks who answered the survey are the organist, and many also consider themselves a accompanist or a pianist. We also had about 55% whose responsibilities include planning music for the services. So it's not necessarily a situation where you walk in and you're given the bulletin and you provide what's been picked for you. So we're actually there helping to guide worship and inspire worship, and that's important. And then to a smaller degree, uh, many of our musicians work with children or direct a handbell choir, or there may also be responsible for hiring the special musicians that come in for holiday services and special occasions.
JW, we do have a question.
Uh-huh.
Is this chart denominations, going back to your denominations,
Mhm.
representative of membership as a whole?
This is representative of the folks who responded to the survey. So it probably I don't know that I have access to a survey across the entire AGO membership. I'm not sure if that was included in the last full membership survey that was done roughly in 2018 or 2019. But I'll definitely go and look and see. So please don't read this as being necessarily representative of the entire organization. But I think that the spread is not surprising, especially. We know that many liturgical churches are still including the organ in their worship, especially after the pandemic, as things really changed. The pandemic seemed to accelerate a lot of the trends that we were seeing, especially as more contemporary music is adopted in more and more churches. And so I think that this can definitely give us a sense of where the spread might occur among different denominations. I hope that answers your question. And again, this was the responsibilities of the positions. Now here's one that I was really looking forward to, especially, approximately how many hours do you work each week for your church or synagogue, including rehearsals, practice, and preparation? And this one was right along the lines that I anticipated. I sort of figured, that we'd probably have the majority fall in that 6 to 10 hours a week range, which we do. In full disclosure, I'm in one of those churches where my total commitment's about 4 to 5. And then with a little extra time coming in around Advent and Christmas, and also leading into Lent and Holy Week. But we do have a lot of members that are putting in anywhere from 11 to 15 or 16 to 20 hours. And I would almost say someone that's doing 21 to 25 hours is probably crossing that line a little bit from what would traditionally might be considered part-time, but you may feel differently from me. And then look at that. We had a couple of folks that are putting in 30 hours or more a week preparing for their services. Now, many of the members of the AGO we know, in addition to their church job, they also teach. And we wanted to get a sense of how many of our weekend organists rely on uh, a side gig, if you want to call it that, a side hustle, teaching music. And this is a little interesting too. They were able to answer more than one category if it applied. And look at that, 55% operate a private studio teaching either organ or piano in addition to their church jobs. We have a small group that may be employed by their church's school. So especially I think in a lot of Lutheran and Catholic and Episcopal churches have a school, a day school. A good chunk are teaching either in public or private school. So that would be, in this case, more of a charter school, a public school, something like that. And a few of us also teach at the college or the university level. So that gives us a little bit of sense of ways that part-time musicians are supplementing their income through teaching. Okay. Now, this is one that's a very much a personal interest of mine. We asked everyone, how many paid Sundays of vacation do you receive annually? And then I have to say this one really shocked me. I've been very fortunate. Most of my church positions, I've generally been allowed four paid Sundays off, and the church would cover the cost of a supply organist or substitute. But look at that. Almost 60%, over 55% don't receive that as a benefit at their church. And that really surprised me. And if any of you are in the chat, I'd love to know sort of how you handle that when you need to be away, or do you just pay a sub, you find a sub and pay them, or how do you handle that? So I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share that in the chat.
I'm monitoring it now. I just wrote, this is so depressing when I saw your stats. Um, Regarding longevity in a particular job, I'll just, while everybody wants to comment, I'll just say, let's give a shout out to Leslie Wolf Robb, who's our counselor for communications, as she has been with the same job for 39 years. And Leslie, all I can say is you're not old enough to have been in that same job.
Seriously, did somebody say it was kind of depressing?
I did.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, I'm sorry, I've enabled everybody to see everyone's chat, and I'm not sure why some people are not seeing it, because they should be able to. I've reset this 3 times, so, all
Oh,
right, we'll keep going. I'm gonna share comments. I'm gonna share comments.
great. Great. We will. And it's sort of fun because everybody, so often we wonder how everybody else, how they're doing and what their situation is. And we're going to talk in just a minute about the questions we couldn't ask on this survey. But this one's really important to me because regardless of the arrangement that we each have worked out with our employers, with our church, in my mind, a Sunday of vacation that's paid is a huge, huge benefit. We often have responsibilities outside with our day jobs. Maybe you have to go to a convention for work, or maybe you need to spend some time with family, or be a caregiver for parents, or whatever the case may be. To have that ability to at least have a couple of Sundays covered really does make a big difference. And it's a good perk that an employer can give, because, and I'm being very careful not to tread into areas that we can't talk about, but generally the cost of a supply organist is not as great as the cost of an employee. And I'll just leave that at that. So it is a good perk for each of us.
Hey, JW, I do
Yes.
have some interesting comments regarding
Uh-huh.
vacation.
Great.
Um, the director of my music church, director of my music at my church realizes the importance of vacation time and includes sub pay in his budget and encourages me to take time off. God bless you. Leslie Wolf Robb commented, with vacation, I started with 2 weeks of paid vacation, and for every 5 years of employment, I get an additional Sunday. So I'm up to 9 paid Sundays off. So,
Wow.
Lynn Francisco Highland said it seems sad that organists get no paid Sunday off. I'm a regular sub, and those I've subbed for generally receive 4 Sundays per year.
Hmm. Yeah. That's always been my observation. Usually it's 2 or 4. And so I was really surprised. It looks like just a small number only get one. And I'm also going to make the assumption that perhaps if you need more, that it just falls on you to then have to pay for the cost of the substitute, if that's an option that your church gives you. And sometimes I've had years where I've had business obligations and had to exceed my 4 Sundays by 1 or 2, and I just pay that sub myself once I've passed the benefit that I've been granted by the church. And then let's take another look at, we asked this question, and this may be sort of uh, it's a tough one. I'll tell you why. At the end of the year, does your church or synagogue report your income with an IRS W-2, which is essentially sets you up as a salaried employee of the church? Or do they issue a 1099 or a contractor pay form? And I will tell you that the sort of official view of the AGO is that generally most church musicians fall within the definitions of the IRS as a W-2, as a salaried employee, because they dictate the time and location of your work. Generally, they dictate your duties, and that really kind of pulls you into that. Now, the church that I'm at right now has for many years uh, treated me as a contractor. And I would say that I think that the reason why we can get away with that is because I have a great deal of freedom in the music. I'm able to plan the music, with very little supervision. And I know that that's definitely not the norm, especially if you're in a liturgical church, again, where Episcopal church or a Catholic church where the priest really has the ultimate say on all things that go with worship. But I've been very fortunate with that. And you'll see here that over 60% of our members are W-2 employees, and a good chunk are 1099. But look at that, about 10% of the folks who responded to the survey are unpaid volunteers.
JW, we do have some comments. A lot of people are saying 1099s. And then someone commented, I get a W-2. It would not be legal to give an organist a 1099. What do you think of that?
Well, again, I'm not a labor law expert. I think that it's still a little bit of a gray area. But I will say that in general, the view of the AGO is that most church musicians are probably employees. And I want to talk to you a little bit about a really great resource that is available to you. The AGO does have a guide to employment for church musicians, and it's available on our website. And it's really the product of a great deal of research, and can really help you in evaluating your current position and gaining the some of the legal nuances that may be there. But the other piece of this that's great is it gives you the chance, when it's time to review your contract, if you have a contract, or review your position. I think it goes all over the place. Some musicians have a formal contract. I have a letter with my church that's just a letter of agreement that essentially functions as a contract, with a job description with it. But I would really recommend that you check out that document, because it's really fantastic. And there's a reason why we have that document, because there are a couple of questions that the AGO is just not allowed to ask our members. And these are also topics that we're really not allowed to advise our members. And many of you may remember many years ago when we had essentially a salary schedule or salary guidelines that tried to outline, how much you should be paid if you play for a service, or a service and a rehearsal, or provide music for a wedding. And as a result of a judgment with the Federal Trade Commission, that was deemed anti-competitive. And it's something that we talk about. I mean, we all miss that time, but you can learn more about that on our website. So that's why in our meetings, you'll rarely, I mean, you shouldn't hear from anyone either inquiring technically about what you're paid, or what the going rates are. Now, that said, many of the aspects that we were used to can be negotiated by you with your church. The AGO can't advise you on that, but that's where the Guide to Employment is a great resource for you, and can help kind of give you some confidence about some of the key points that you'll want to negotiate yourself with your church. And so that's why we have to stop at that point of the discussion. And we were asked that when I presented some of this information at the National Convention in San Francisco, and somebody asked about that, and it's really the result of this agreement that the AGO negotiated with the Federal Trade Commission. It doesn't. I think that you still have a lot of leverage, and just check out that book, and I think you'll find that it'll be very helpful.
JW, we do have some
Yeah.
comments.
Uh-huh.
W-2 implies benefits such as all taxes, Social Security, health benefits, paid vacation, etc. And then someone commented, Joan, thank you. Pay basis. If you pay a worker on an hourly, weekly, or monthly basis, the IRS will consider it a sign the worker is your employee. An independent is generally paid by the job, project assignment, etc., or receives a commission or similar fee. If you get Social Security or workman's comp taken out, you are definitely an employee.
Absolutely. And in my case, as a 1099, I'm responsible for my taxes. They do not withhold any of my taxes, and that can be a challenge. The best advice I can give on this, and this comes from the fact that I've been a consultant essentially professionally for my whole career. So I've lived the whole last 25 years as a 1099 employee from a variety of clients. And in this case, my church is one of those clients. Consult your tax preparer if you have any questions. They'll be able to give you the best advice. Now, I would say this, when we get to the conversation that we're planning a little later in a couple of months, I've been working with a couple of accountants, CPAs, and for those of you that are substitutes, and gig workers, freelancers, so to speak, there are a lot of financial benefits that come with that too. And so again, check with your tax advisor or your tax preparer. Yeah, even though I think the vast majority, and even as our survey indicated, the vast majority of part-time musicians are paid, and it's reported via W-2. There are a sizable number that are still being treated as contractors. So I hope that helps. It's a lot of gray areas in many ways, a lot of very individual situations there. And again, check out the book and talk to your accountant. They'll be able to help you with those issues. So I'd love to turn folks to the chat again. And you've had a chance to get a little sense of what our community is like. I mean, we've gotten a little portrait, um, and an unscientific portrait of sort of where we stand in terms of, how long we've been serving, our longevity at our positions. We've gotten a sense of, how many hours many of us put into our jobs, and what the responsibilities are in those positions. So I'd love to know from you, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as a part-time church musician right now? What are the things that might keep you up at night, or create some consternation? I love that word, consternation, uh, as you work with your congregation and your musicians.
Oh, we're seeing a couple that are saying finding subs, absentee choir members. Let's see what else is coming in. My pastor changes hymn numbers days. Oh, wait a second. Days before a service after I prepared special music based on earlier hymn numbers posted on our worship planning sheet. I'm so sorry.
I
Untrained clergy.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Oh my gosh.
Someone said untrained clergy getting copyright permission for live stream services. Choir
Mhm.
members who travel frequently, leaving sections shorthanded. Well, that used to be me, but now I've decided I'm not going to sing in my choir. So, contemporary music. Okay, there's another one.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that all of those are pretty common for the most part. Um, it's tough, and what we're finding in all organizations as well as churches is that people coming out of the pandemic feel much less committed to the time that it takes to be a member of an organization. Even in an organization like the AGO, they feel less inclined to commit to being at church every Sunday. Many of them watched online and they realized, hey, I don't have to get up and get dressed up and head down, or for many, what had been largely routine, something they've just always done, it broke them of the habit. And that has very profound consequences for us. My one soprano is now a grandmother, and so she disappears to North Carolina to play grandmother, and I'm so happy for her. But boy, it leaves me in a pickle when I've got to figure something out for special music, especially with as small of a choir as I have. So those are all very, very similar challenges, I think, across the board for
JW,
all of
this is
us.
an interesting one. Biggest challenge, in particular since COVID, is division within the congregation. Some want to move forward, incorporate blended worship, open the doors wider, upgrade technology, and another faction which wants to go back to the way it was in 2000 or even 1960. Uh-oh.
Yep, I think we all, many of us have been in that boat too. It's tough. Now I want to tell you about a really exciting webinar that I've got planned for next month. I received an email and it was outlining some new music, and it came from J.W. Pepper. And if you're not familiar, J.W. Pepper is really, I think, the largest music retailer in the country, or among the top two or three for sure. And so I reached out to them, and they have a team there. They have a choral music editor, a church music editor, keyboard editor, and a consultant. And so they're actually going to come join us next month on Monday the 16th, I think. I hope I've got the date right. And the topic is contemporary music for traditional organists. Because I don't know about you, but I probably get asked once a month, can we try something a little newer? And oftentimes those people don't know what exactly they mean by something newer. Sometimes it's more about being something up tempo. I think a lot of people, when they say something newer, maybe harken back to the blended worship of the 1980s. Many of you will remember that sort of movement, and a lot of Sandy Patty and Michael W. Smith and that type of contemporary music. For others, that might be Taizé or some other ritualistic kind of music. But what they're going to do is they're going to talk to us about what's happening right now. And here's the thing that I didn't know is that many of the more popular and successful praise songs have now been arranged into choral octavos. So it's not like the pastor's handing you a lead sheet with a bunch of words and some chords and maybe a melody. I mean, now, many of the more prolific arrangers and composers have taken those songs and they've arranged them in a way that we are comfortable and that we know and that we can teach our choirs based on the way that we sing. So that's going to be a really exciting panel, I think. And so I hope that you'll go ahead and mark that down on your calendars for next month. I'll hit the date here in another slide. But it doesn't mean that we have to give up what we know and love, but think of it this way. When the pastor says, I really want to try something newer, you're not the one that has to say no or say, I don't know how. I mean, you can come back and you'll be armed the next time that they ask you that, and you'll be able to say, "Hey, I've got a couple of ideas. Have you heard of this?" Chances are they may have, and you can introduce it to your choir, to your congregation. So I hope that gets across the idea that we don't have to think of it. It's not an all or nothing kind of equation. I mean, we can incorporate many different types of music into our worship, and this is just another piece of our repertoire that we can call to. How are we doing on the chat, Elizabeth?
Okay. Are any of these arranged for two mixed voices versus soprano, alto, tenor, bass?
We will find out when we talk with the folks from Pepper. Now, I will tell you that's the most popular. Basically mixed men and women. That's what I use most of the time because I only have 3 or 4 in my choir. I will tell you that Hope Publishing has a lot of versions of pieces and original compositions for that mixed choir like that in 2 voices. So we will definitely touch base on those down the road because I want to talk to you a little bit about one of the other questions in the survey. We'll pivot back here. And we asked, what types of resources and information would be most helpful for you as a part-time church musician. And this is sort of where it came out. Again, this was kind of a multiple choice. You could pick as many as you want, but look at that. 80% want to learn more about organ repertoire. 60% are looking for organ technique and registration ideas. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to find some artists out there that can perhaps give us a little master class in registration for smaller instruments, and also some of the unique capabilities of some of the digital and the Hauptwerk instruments. 39% are looking for worship resources and ideas. And watch my column coming up in another month or so because we're going to do big Christmas services for a small church. So we're going to give you some ideas that you can incorporate. I mean, I know some of you have probably already got your whole Advent and Christmas planned out. I can't do it because I don't know who's even going to be in the area at the end of December. So it's a much shorter planning cycle for me. So I hope that those will come at a time that will be helpful for you. We're also looking at piano repertoire, choral repertoire, and technology. It's all about finding those areas that we can help you. We want to create community and share ideas and resources. We want to uplift each other, and we want to provide the kind of information that's going to be helpful to you in your music ministry. And as I mentioned, here are a couple of the upcoming column topics you can look at. Of course, and the survey says should be in your mailbox any day now. We know they're starting to hit, so great timing there. In the October issue, I did a column about Halloween. What a great holiday for organists. And you know what? It's not too late. It's not too late to put something together and have a little fun with the young people and the young at heart in your congregation. So watch for that. And you don't have to practice a million hours to get it up, get it all worked out. Big holiday services for small churches, tax tips for the substitute organist. In January, we're planning, I'm not as young as I used to be. And thanks to Sue Mitchell Wallace in Atlanta, she's hooked us up with a physical therapist, I believe, who is really fine at dealing with the things that happen to us physically as we get older. I'm a more than middle-aged man, and I'm going to tell you, man spreading is a real issue. So he's going to be there to help with those kinds of things that happen. We're not as nimble on the bench as we used to be, and managing the effects of too much practice and some tightening joints and those sorts of things. And then in the spring also, we're going to be doing big holiday services for small churches with an Easter theme as well. And here are our upcoming webinars, as I mentioned. So just watch for more information about those. But I want to go back now. Is it possible, Elizabeth, to scroll back? Let's talk a little bit about some of the repertoire suggestions that everyone on the call had.
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm going to go all the way back because there's so many wonderful comments here.
Oh, I can't wait to share those. That's one thing we
Okay.
love to do, is share all the conversation and the input.
Okay. June Nixon has several great collections of preludes, postludes, and free harmonizations on a variety of hymn tunes. Brenda Portman and Angela Kraft Cross have several new collections each. Someone mentioned 8 Little Preludes and Fugues, Gordon Young. I think that's it for the preludes or the repertoire. Oh, I'm sorry. I would greatly recommend Fraser Gartshaw, a British composer.
I've never heard of him. I'm gonna have to go onto YouTube and look him up and see if there are any recordings. Yeah, I think there are a lot. There's so much great music out there, and it's so easy to find these days as well. Now, just speaking of being able to find music, I just want to remind everybody too that as an AGO member, you have the ability to take advantage of this discount from our friends at Sheet Music Plus. And that's a great way to test out some pieces, because now we're not necessarily bound by buying a whole volume of music to just find one or two pieces that we like. And that's one of the ways that I use Sheet Music Plus as well. And Elizabeth, could you remind everyone how they can take advantage of this offer?
Yes, I'd be happy to. You need to go to your login and sign in with your credentials, and you'll see a big red login button on the right corner of our web page. And then it will say, we have a new tab once you've logged in that says benefits. And just go right in there and it will give you instructions on how you can receive. There's a special link to Sheet Music Plus. And when you are ready to check out, it will give you the discount.
Great. Yeah, that's a fantastic benefit. And keep in mind that if you do like to order hard copies, that applies that across that order as well. So that 10% may not seem like a lot if you're downloading a $4.99 digital piece, but I don't know. Every now and then the shopping bug hits us, and we go and see what we can find, and we end up with a pretty hefty order. So take advantage of that for sure, because that's a great benefit that we enjoy thanks to our friends at Sheet Music Plus. And then another resource I'd like to just call to your attention. I'm a big fan of Church Music Institute. $35 annual membership for AGO members, but they have an incredible online database. And this might be a great place for Kathy to look for some pieces to work with, because again, everything's there. It includes IMSLP, just thousands of pieces that are in the public domain that you can pull down. And there's also organ and choral works in the archive as well that you can use to research and supplement your resources. And I just heard recently on one of the Facebook groups that the entire Dupre edition of the Bach works is now available on IMSLP now. And if you're familiar with it, it's the Dupre edition. It's definitely a creature of a very specific perspective. I mean, he was a great master of sort of that French Romantic contemporary style, and he performed the works of Bach, largely informed by the instruments at his fingertips. But here's the secret: he's taken every single note in those works and fingered them for you. That's right. So that's something I'm not strong at, is figuring out the fingerings in my work. But the nice thing is it's a starting place. It's kind of like Chat GPT a little bit. You use it as a starting point to gather ideas, and then you can go through and customize it. So definitely consider that as well. It's a great resources and great resource, and our friends at the Church Music Institute are incredibly helpful. We appreciate them making this the benefit available to us as well. And so with that, I'm gonna share my email with you, and I'd encourage you to check us out on Facebook, join the conversation, and in a couple of months, you're going to be hearing about an exciting new community on our new website. That's right. I know we've been promising this for seemingly forever, but there is a new AGO website and an AGO a member database system that's going to be coming online soon in just a few weeks. It is going to happen. And as part of that, in a couple of months, we're going to be launching Connect. And that's a special online community for AGO members. Think of it as our own kind of little private lounge. I think it kind of works like social media, and you have the opportunity to interact in fairly real time, but you're not putting yourself out there in Facebook or Instagram, and so it's a safe space, I think a great place to develop relationships with other organists, to share ideas, and to really find the support that we all seek from time to time. So watch for that, because it's coming, and it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I'm going to ask Elizabeth, anything else pop up in the chat, or any comments you'd like to share with everyone before we wrap up?
I think I think we pretty covered it. Lots of it's just wonderful to see all of the engagement and interaction, JW. So good job.
Great, great. Well, as is our practice, what we will do is we will send out a link to the webinar, and we'll capture the comments as well. And I hope that everyone has a great fall. I know many of you are starting up your music programs after a little summer break and getting back up and going. It's a busy time, so we wish everyone the best of luck with that. And please continue to engage with us, with everyone across this special community that we have. We together we can accomplish so much and support each other. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you for being with us, and let's see what kind of trouble we can get up to next time.